Good evening, good evening. Hello, hello. How are you guys doing? Good evening. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope everyone is doing well. Hope you're having a great Saturday, having a good weekend so far. The night is still young. Let's get into episode 5, which is our series finale. This is our series finale, excuse me, and I'm looking forward to getting into the next one. All right, let's get started. Hopefully StreamYard doesn't kick me out. This evening we're going to be discussing the plight of a good stepfather. Now, I know basic, lackluster, neglectful stepfather because they exist. The same way basic, lackluster, neglectful, quote unquote, real fathers exist. Okay? As well as great fathers exist. But I want to talk about the plight of a good stepfather because I don't think they're discussed and uplifted and highlighted enough, at least in my opinion. I don't know if any of you men are good stepfathers, or if maybe you are not even with your children's mother, but they have a good stepfather. You know, I don't know if any of you women are have children and you may not be with the father. And not to say that the father is a good or a bad father. You are just simply no longer with him. And in some cases, you guys were never together. You know, it's a known fact that there's plenty of children who were created not out of love, but out of a good time. But they were created nonetheless. Hold on. And this discussion is not an attempt or in an attempt to bash fathers, real fathers, original fathers, right? This is to highlight the plight of a good stepfather. Okay. Hey P, yeah, well, I said I wanted to do Webisode 5 of this series today, and I don't see any reason why I can't. Good evening again. Good evening again. Good evening, cloud dwellers. Let me close up this other window because I don't want StreamYard to kick me out. Good stepdad, I'm not. Sorry, not sorry. Lord, well then this plight doesn't apply to you now, does it? Or it may, because you may not have went into that situation looking, and with the intentions of not being a good stepfather. So we're gonna get into it. So it says being a good stepfather means prioritizing the child's emotional safety, supporting their mother, and building a relationship at the child's own pace. You never rush it or force it on a child. Okay. Step parenting is a unique journey that requires shifting from a mindset of absolute authority to one of trusted mentorship. Excuse me. What I take from them saying a mindset of absolute authority, to keep it a bean, it just means you are not that child's technical father. You know what I mean? You are their stepfather. They have a father. They have a dad. Now, if he is lacking in certain areas, or if him and the mother can't find proper, a healthy common ground, which will halt and be a barrier to that father, being able to be there properly for his child. It is what it is. You are still that child's stepfather. So it gets tricky to expect to be able to have absolute authority. But at the same time, as you, meaning any man who is a stepfather, as you are the man of that house, you do have the right to set the tone and then place boundaries and quote unquote rules and expectations and so on and so forth that you do. The core principles of step parenting: love the mother visibly. What the heck? Show affection and respect to your spouse. Modeling a healthy, stable relationship is one of the greatest gifts you can give children who may have experienced family disruption. Family disruption. And I wonder which situation is more harmful to the mental of a child: to grow up and come up with your parents, meaning your biological mother and your biological father, never being in a relationship, never being in the home together, where it's all of you, whether it's just the child is only child or they have siblings, or if the child grew up having both their parents in the home and then a divorce occurs, or if they're not married, a split occurs, and now the two of them are no longer in the same home together with that child or children. I wonder, because both scenarios can be harmful and damaging to a child's mental, but I wonder which one is more harmful, has more of an effect. You said, I gave it a try and it didn't work. And sometimes that is the case both for step parents and stepmothers and stepfathers, you know. But you gave it a legit try. And there's a lot of men who don't even and won't even give that a second thought to do. That he's lacking in all areas. And that can be tricky for a stepfather when the real dad is lacking in all areas, especially if with them lacking in all areas, they think that they still have a right to dictate anything that goes on in that house or really with that child when they're not doing their part at all. And you, as a stepfather, is not only doing your part as the man in that house, but as that child's step parents without no support or help from the real parent, the other real parents. You said the second is most harmful. I can envision that. You built a relationship and had to watch one leave the home is way worse. Yeah. Especially if you are accustomed to have as a child, whether as a younger child or an older child, you are accustomed to having them both there, having access to them both. That can be tricky for a child. hmm It's no longer a free range type of thing, especially if a healthy relationship is not had. with the mother and the father. Okay, we're going to go over the core principles of step parenting. Build relational power, not positional power. That's a good one. You build relational power, not positional power. Not simply just because, like I said, you are the man of that house. Yes, that is a major thing and that is a major part to how you should be treated, as well as the treatment you give. But that shouldn't be the base. The goal should be to form a relationship with that child who is now your stepchild, and you are their stepfather. You are either their sole or their secondary father figure. You cannot demand respect purely based on your adult status. True connection comes from showing up consistently over time until the child feels safe seeking your validation and advice. Yes. So you can't have the mentality as a man in the home with children. Hey, SBK, good evening. Hold on, guys. You can't have the mentality that because you are the man of that house, that this child has to automatically have love and respect and admiration, for you just simply because their mother does. And you can't expect to not do the work. Once again, there's some people who expect to get the fruits without the labor. The same way that child is going to have to do some type of work, give a little bit, because there's some children who are just stubborn in that type of situation, especially if ideally they would rather their mother be with their father. And that's a whole other plight for the stepfather because that's a battle. That's a battle. That is a battle. But the work most definitely has to be done. And you can't have the mindset that because it's not your quote unquote real child, that you shouldn't have to do the work as if such, especially if you, as a good stepfather, would like to be respected by this child as if you are their real father. Let the child set the pace. Do not force physical affection, bonding activities, or titles like dad. Let them guide how close they want to be and respect their personal boundaries. We've spoken this before. There's a lot of people who have the mentality that because a child is a child, they are not a human being with a brain and a heart. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. That is the furthest thing from the truth. And anybody who operates that way with children will never be successful, whether you are a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, an educator, a coach, a counselor, anybody who deals with children in any capacity. If you deal with them with the thought process that because they are children, you know, they don't have the ability to have common sense, they don't have the ability to have, you know, legit valid feelings, you are not going to be successful with them in no way, shape, or form. And you can be a great stepdad without a child or stepfather without the child having to call you dad. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with them just simply calling you your name. You know what I mean? Now, if you're old-fashioned and you don't really believe in children calling adults by their first names, you work that out. But it doesn't have to be dad in order for your position to be solidified. And that's regardless if they have their actual dad in their life or not, but especially if they have their quote unquote real dad in their life. Never badmouth the biological father, no matter what the circumstances are. Criticizing their biological parent will cause, the child inner conflict and resentment toward you, even if the word you are saying is valid. And this reigns true in just the whole parenting dynamic as a whole. No parent, whether that be the mother or the father, the stepfather, the stepmother, no parent should be talking ill about the other parent in front of any child at any time, even if it's valid. I'd rather you call one of your friends, one of your closest friends, or even that person directly and let them have it when that child is nowhere near or in earshot, because it's very counterproductive. It's very counterproductive, and then you also have children because children are smart. Uh, Bless anybody who thinks that any child they're around is dumb. Children are very smart. There's a lot of very smart children who are smarter than a lot of these adults I come across. And they will play parents against each other real quick without it even just being on some diabolical-ish. Just simply because they're children, they're going to test the waters. They're going to see what they can get away with. They're going to see what you're with, what you're not with. They're going to see if you guys have the ability to be on one accord. And even if that is not their initial thought process, they will pick up on that. So it's very counterproductive to be talking any type of ish about the other parent anywhere near, around, or to a child. Okay? And keep in mind, even when you think a child is not listening, you'd be surprised. And walls are thin. It doesn't matter how good your house was built. Walls are thin, and kids are nosy by nature. They're inquisitive. They want to know what the dealio is. Okay? Let's see. SBK said 100. You agree. Cool beans. You guys are reading each other. Hey, Rafe, how are you? Good evening. Hope you're doing well. Oh, you said, and I forgot, you said you was off on weekends, so cool beans. You get the Mac. You get the Mac. I have a BM that definitely does that. Constant slander because I walked away from a toxic situation. And it's very counterproductive. It's very counterproductive to that child who should be the main concern. She needs to call one of her girlfriends and pop her ish. If she feel like she got some stuff to get off her chest, it shouldn't be to or around the child. You say very interesting topic. I'd say, Ray. And there's a lot of men who have a twisted thought process, but also would like to not be quote unquote bothered by their baby mama. Same way a lot of women have this thought process. Because if you think about it, you should want the person who you procreated with, regardless if that was out of love, out of a good time, as a result of a relationship, as a result of a marriage. Once that child enters this earth, hold on, it's about them. It's about them. You say, yes, ma'am, get to enjoy this weekend. It's needed for sure, but great topic, something worth thinking about. I dig it. Cool beans, I appreciate that. You should want, as well as that other parent should want, for you to be as well as possible, to be in your greatest form, to be at your best, to be as happy as pie, because those are great ingredients for a great partnership. When I say partnership, that doesn't mean that you guys are going to be together, no. But a great partnership to be able to tag team the very difficult job of raising up a child or children. And when it comes to step parents, good step parents, great step parents, why would you not embrace that and uplift that? Because if we're going to keep it a bean, the healthier and happier that other parent is, and this is regardless if you care for them or not, the healthier and happier that other parent is, not only will it affect your child in a major way, it will also, quote unquote, so to say, keep them off your back. Keep them off your back. Keep them out your face. Especially if you don't really want to be bothered with them. If they are healthy and as happy as pie, they're not even worried about you. They're worried about their own household, with their own man, their own woman, while also having the ability to be a healthy, productive tag team partner with you and whoever your spouse or partner may be, to be able to bring up a healthy and productive child who you would like to unleash onto the society as a healthy and productive adult. Truth, in the end, it's all about the kids. Those adults have to get themselves in order immediately. Immediately. It's not about you. That is a dub. That is a dub. And for the woman, it becomes a dub the moment you become pregnant and decide to keep it. And God slash the universe decides to allow you to carry on with a healthy pregnancy. It's not about you no more. And you should never want to be the type of parent to want to halt or put barriers in front of the other parent having a partner in that home to help uplift and bring that child up. My older brother was a bad influence, having all the women and money. I tried to mock him in that where a father's influence could have saved me. That's why I go so hard for mine, Z. As you should, because they're yours. And I'm sorry your brother gave it up that way. And that's the thing about being an older sibling. You don't want to have that onus or that responsibility to be an example to fall on you, but it just is what it is. Your younger siblings are like little sponges, and especially if they admire you. And we might be able to drop that in a hard truth bucket. It's not the older sibling's responsibility to be an example and to raise up their siblings. But to keep it a being, it is what it is because, like I said, children are smart. They have eyes, they have ears, they have brains, they have hearts. It just is what it is. Some people are still emotionally attached to the failed relationship. And I understand, but you gotta go. Like I said, I don't care if that's if it's a girlfriend, a friend, your boy. You go get a counselor. If you go to church, you talk to your pastor. You gotta get through that because that relationship is a dub. And if you have the ability to really and truly take a step back and find yourself some clarity, you will find that there's a reason as to why that relationship is a dub. It's done beneath them. Whether that reason is you, whether it is that other person, or maybe y'all just really just didn't have no business even being in a relationship. It might have just been a little quick whoop-de-doo. It might have should have just been a quick little whoop-de-doo on occasion. People jump the gun in that way. People don't even take time to properly court somebody before they just jump right into it. You know what I mean? On top of the fact that they don't take all the appropriate and proper measures that are available to every grown adult to protect yourself, not only from STDs and sicknesses and illnesses, but as well as from procreating with the next person. You just be out here living life on the wild side and then be shocked and appalled when they end up with wild results. Me and my kid's mother, or I'll just speak for myself, had to get it together and focus on what's important. As long as the kids are safe, that's all that matters. Exactly. And the healthiest and the happiest she is, it lessens the chances of any type of BS being flung your way, you know, as well as any type of BS affecting the children, especially when you know you are doing your part fully. Exactly, children are a lot smarter than given credit. I'm telling you. And that's without even getting into how many brilliant children there that exist, you know, that are, as they would say back in the day, ahead of their time, as if they had quote unquote been here before. Very intelligent, and they pick up on things that you wouldn't even think they would. And they won't always regurgitate the things that they pick up on, which can lead to a whole other set of issues. Let's see. If dudes laying with women to have a place to stay and having kids is the unfortunate outcome when they have no attachment. Listen, there's a lot of people who operate in that way. When I say someone wants the fruits without doing the labor, that rings so true on many different fronts. They want to reap the fruits of the labor that they have not done. And it just doesn't work like that. And it shouldn't work like that. So, all right, cool beans. Let's continue. I appreciate y'all being here. Good evening, Cloud Dwellers. Thank you for being here. Hopefully, you're able to get something out of this, regardless if this applies to your daily life or if it may apply to something to do with your future, or it may apply to somebody who you know. Or you may just like the sound of my voice. I don't know. But either way, thank you for being here. And thank you to whoever's going to catch the replay. So it says handling discipline and partnership. Defer to the mother initially. And this can be very tricky for some men, especially because, like I said, when you are the man of the house, the head of the house, yes, you have the right and you should have the ability to make certain decisions, to set the tone, to set certain standards, rules, blah, blah, blah. But this is regardless if you are the step parent or the actual parent in the home with the other parent. Be a united front. Be a united front. A child should never be able to detect any type of cracks, even if there's multiple. Because once they do, forget about it, especially when it's a step parent situation. Let them see that you are not on the same accord with your step parent. You guys are not, you know, on the same page in regards to them. All right. Work as a team behind closed doors to establish rules. Yes. In the beginning, let her deliver the primary discipline while you act as the supportive backup. You have her back, as well as there's going to be times when she is going to have your back, a united front, and y'all work out the kinks behind closed doors. That's if you are the step parent or if it is a mom and dad situation, regardless if you're in the home or not. United front, okay? And then obviously when it comes to if you're the type of parent who believes in spanking or tapping that ass, I personally don't believe any parent who is not the actual parent should be doing that. You know what I mean? I hold firm in that. Um, I understand that can be tricky the older a child gets. Say in the case of a boy, it's very tricky for some women when it comes to disciplining their child once and he's a boy once and same for their daughters when they become teenagers because there's some there's some teenagers who really just get beside themselves, for lack of better words. They get beside themselves, they bump their heads, and they will try you, you know, they will try you. And unless it's a case where it's a major situation to where, not that you have to put your hands on that child as a stepfather, primarily the son, but there may be a time where if he's one of them children who gets completely beside themselves and begin to act up in a way where you might just have to just grab them and be like, yeah, what's up? Are you good? What are we doing here? Those type of things. But when it comes to punishment, that can get very tricky when it comes to the step parent role. But there's so many other punishments that don't have anything to do with you even putting your hands on a child unless the situation is just completely out of hand and you have to just grab them, if that makes sense to you guys. If that makes any type of sense to you guys. Mama put them out, so that's the only plan they have is to lay up with women they don't know or care for. Are you talking about the child, like the child or the teenager? Are you talking about men who do that? See, you talk about men who don't have their crap together. They go from living with their mom to woman. They don't have a solid foundation on their own. Are you talking about an unruly teenager or young adult? Great session, V. Thank you, Rafe. I appreciate that. Hey, F&M, good evening, sis. F&M's going to be going live this evening, as long as she still plans to. So as soon as she has that set and situated, I'm going to share it. Thank you for coming. I hope you're having a great day. You said exactly. F&M said, don't forget to hit the like button. Yeah, if you're feeling froggy, why not? Put your differences aside. And really, when you sit and think about and map out and really just put everything on the table, those differences always wind up being so minute, especially once you have the ability to get over certain things and also understand that certain things happen for a reason, even if you don't feel that way in the moment. Easier said than done in my situations. In most situations, it's very tricky. It's very tricky. And that's why I keep on pushing the word work, you know? Very tricky. Being co-parents usually turn out to be the form of a partnership. That's what I'm saying. I believe that wholeheartedly. You should never want, as well as the want should never be from the other parent, the other parent for you to be their op. Even if they engage in oppy activities, even if they have oppy tendencies, if that is not towards that child and they are not a danger or a risk to that child, it's definitely not impossible for there to be a healthy co-parenting situation to where I don't need to deal with you. I really don't need to deal with you unless we need to deal with each other. And that's just being grown to have the ability, even if you can just truly do without the other parent. You know your child can't, and you shouldn't want your child to just simply do without the other parent because you can. That's selfish. And you definitely shouldn't be doing anything to hinder or cause issues if there is a healthy step parent in that home with the other parent. That is a blessing. That is a blessing. And regardless of whose fault it is or was, there has been a hole left that needs to be filled. The same way they shouldn't be making life harder for you if you find and meet somebody who is able and down to be a healthy step parent as well as being your partner. That is a blessing. And like the thumbnail says, basically, if not for the many good stepfathers that exist, there would be so many children who don't have fathers or father figures at all. Because for so many different reasons, and not all a negative reason on the part of the biological father, there has been a gap left, a hole. And in some fathers' cases, they may be locked up, they may have passed away, They may have some type of crazy addiction or illness, mental illness, that is a major barrier to them being the father that they need to be in that child, and that child needs them to be. There's some situations where a woman will get pregnant and simply not even tell a man, and it might have just been a quick little whoop-de-doo, you know? It may be a child whose father is in the military and they're not with the mom, but they're in the military and they're never home. A gap has been left. Now, obviously, if the father who is in the military is with the mom, it's still tricky, but that's a different conversation when it comes to support systems and whatnot. And maybe that's a conversation we'll get into, the plight of the military spouse. And that's regardless if there's children involved or not, but especially when there's children involved. Hold on. Maybe that's just a conversation we will have in general, because it's not going to be a part of this series, but that is a great conversation to have as well. Support systems matter. And in this context, we're talking about the support of having a great step parent in the home, both for the child as well as for the the parent whose partner it is, as well as for the other parents. There's a lot of men who need to be taking the stepfather out for a drink. The same way there's a lot of women who need to be taking the stepmom out to go get her nails done or to go have some lunch. And even if they don't really have a strong rapport with each other, but you know that they are a good stepmom or stepdad, you don't even got to take them out. Just throw them a couple dollars because they have the right and they should be appreciated because they are doing a job that is not naturally in the natural order of things theirs to do. We are not built and made to produce children, you know, that are quote unquote put off on the next person to raise. That they are your child, they are your children. You weren't made to procreate and then not step up to the plate, bars. And as a man or a woman, you are not made to be able to procreate and then not step up to the plate. And when somebody else comes into the picture and you are not with that other parent and they are willing and able to step up to that plate, you encourage and you uplift that. You don't degrade and disrespect that. I'm talking about the adolescent teen slash young adult who can't act right. Yes, some have to learn the hard way, and that's very unfortunate. But imagine if it was a complete united front, both you and the mom trying to get this kid together, as well as the child's actual father reinforcing that. Because whoever the children live with, it just is what it is. This is a fact. Whoever the children live with set the tone for the most part and have more of a say as to how this thing is going to go to a certain extent. You know what I mean? And when the other parent knows that the tone that has been being set is legit and it's healthy and it's productive for that child, they're supposed to be on the same page with that. So even if the child comes to them and says, oh, blah, 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 nah, you reaffirm with the other parents. In fact, I ain't even putting it off. No, we're on the same page. We're on the same page. You're not going to be able to play us against each other. And when that is the situation, and everyone is on the same page, as far as the adults, that child really doesn't have too much of a choice but to quote unquote fall in line, especially when conversations are being had with the child. A lot of people don't talk to their kids because they don't feel like they need to. What they say is that, and then that is that, and then that is that. And it's like, okay, you must not remember what it's like to be a child. You can set the tone and the boundaries and the rules, and that's going to be that. But it also does not hurt. It helps to have the ability to sit them down and not explain yourself, but context matters. And even if by the end of that conversation they still don't seem to get it, they have no choice but to know it's not just you trying to be on some dictator stuff, especially when continual conversations are had. Sometimes you have to reiterate the same thing, especially if you don't feel like they're getting it or grasping it. There is no one and done when it comes to children. You got to do the work. Same when conversations need to be had with the other parents in regards to that child. You may not always see eye to eye. There may have to be a little give and take, but the work must be done because you decided to have some fun. People don't think like that when they're out there having their fun. They don't think like that when they're out there having their fun and a child is created. And if we're going to keep it an absolute being, there's people who have the false thought process that they can treat the other parent like shit and then be shocked and appalled if they don't want to do the work to be on the same page with you about anything. It doesn't mean that they should move that way, but that is just a hard truth. You have a lot of co-parents who treat each other like straight up garbage, but then want their perspectives to be taken into consideration, their view on things to be taken into consideration. And it just doesn't work like that, and it's not great ingredients to a great partnership. He said, P, yeah, I had a few fools try to coach me. I figured this stuff out by myself and dealing with myself from within. The only person to hold a grudge for is the other person they're holding a grudge for is just an image. They're really upset with themselves. Yeah, because they likely fell short somewheres. They may have screwed the pooch. It doesn't mean you have to dwell on that. Just try to be better. I'm behind. No, nobody should ever stay in a toxic and unhealthy situation. That's not productive for a child in the least or the slightest of bits. That's why I always make sure that I mention regardless if you are with the parent or not. Because there are a lot of women and men who believe, okay, if you don't want to be with me, it's the hell with you all. Or I'm just going to simply do all I can with all I might to try to make things as difficult as possible for you. And that's very damaging to the child. Make it your job to one that hurts and cause damage and be toxic to the other parent, especially the one who is doing the brunt of the work and raising them up on a daily. Hold on. And there's a lot of stepfathers who just get slung a lot of BS and disrespect from the other parent, as well as sometimes from the mom in the home when they are doing the work. And to keep it a being, the work that is not even theirs to do. Let's see. Agreed, V. People like to project their own regrets and issues on others while not doing the work. While not doing the work. I said bars. True. Yeah. Communication is very important. Very, very important. Listening is very important too. Understanding is very important too. Because in this context, the child, the child, the child, the children, the children, the children, it is not about you. It's not about you. That ship has sailed. It's about that child. It's about them children. Shows a major lack of maturity. All right. We're going over handling discipline and partnership. Keep disagreements private. Discuss this. Never argue about parenting styles or house rules in front of the children. Because a stepfather may disagree with you know, how the mother has become accustomed to doing things in regards to that child. And that's a conversation to have, just not in front of the children. Address conflicts privately with your partner to maintain a united front. Exactly. Support her routine. Align your actions with her existing homework. I think they meant it. I'm just going to say support their routine. Align your actions with their existing homework, bedtime, and behavioral expectations. Okay, never mind. My bad, y'all. I thought they were bugging at first. Support her routine. Align your actions with her existing homework, bedtime, and behavioral expectations for that child rather than trying to overhaul them overnight, meaning rather than just simply wanting to debo hers for that child while to input yours. You guys have to come to a common ground, you know what I mean? So say if she always lets the child go to bed at 10:30, this is an example. The stepfather might be like, yo, you're bugging. He or she, in my opinion, really needs to be in bed no later than 9 o'clock. That's a conversation to have. She may be the type of parent to let her kids go outside and play and do the whoopsie-doo before doing homework. He may feel like, nah, when they get home while everything is still fresh, which is the best in my opinion, they do their homework. Then they go play if that's what they want to do. Whoopsie-doo, you know what I mean? And so on and so forth. The child may do a lot of back talking. That may not be a big deal to the mother, or she may not even have thought of it to be a big deal. It may be the biggest of deals to the stepfather, and that could be just simply of how he was raised. Hold on. I know, my bad, y'all. I know a woman whose children were never accustomed to organic anything. They didn't know nothing about an organic anything. Her husband's very health conscious. They went from eating straight up regular Pop Tarts to getting them organic bad boys. You think them kids like that? No, because they were accustomed to a certain type of thing, as she was. But that common ground, and when you really take a step back, that's just introducing healthier foods to children who weren't being introduced to healthier foods, as well as a woman who wasn't health conscious in that way in regards to the type of food that she not only puts into the bodies of her children, but of herself. But if you're a bullheaded person and you're stubborn, you're going to argue somebody down about something like that. And that is a good thing to switch from these GMO foods with all this extra added stuff that is killing us, to switch over to the more organic and healthier stuff. It may not taste as well initially, but hey, it is what it is. Listen, I wish being let my baby stay up till like 12 or 1 a.m. That's ridiculous. And I hope that is, if she doesn't already have a partner, I hope if she gets a partner, and she'll take heed if they tell her, you bugging. They shouldn't even be up past 10 o'clock. And if she does, and you notice they start going to bed earlier, don't give her no shit about it. Embrace that. I love organic everything. Cool beans. So you would be the type of stepfather to come into a situation and would want to have that conversation with the mother. I don't even want no relationship, but hypothetically, about that. You know what I mean? While being able to add the proper context, proper information, not just, oh, it's bad for you. This is better for you. You'll be able to actually name the ways in which that is a fact. I just left that plant-based beef and chicken alone. Got me started eating organic. Yeah, what we put in our bodies matter. I'm just obsessed with it and doing extra. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with implementing that into the diet of children. And to keep it a bean, even if you as a parent or step parent don't even have that implemented in your own diet, don't feel hypocritical about implementing it into your children's diet, because they always matter more and they always matter first. They always matter more. This is what people need to keep in mind when it comes to co-parenting, when it comes to dealing with situations with step parents. Nah, I'm not gonna. I haven't even tried the mushroom coffee. I'm childish with that. I ain't gonna hold you. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Dagnabbit. Shout out to Arabia. I kept my wisdom. It's about the child. It's about the children. It's not about you. It's the gist of it. I done cut my wisdom, dagnabbit, and I was on a roll talking about mushroom coffee. Okay, let's see. Lastly, making meaningful connections. Engage in their world. Meet them on their level by playing their favorite games, listening to their interests, and showing genuine curiosity about who they are. Create reliable rituals. Create reliable rituals. Establish small, predictable routines, like a dedicated date day. I don't like that term. Maybe like a dedicated day out. I like that better. A dedicated day out with your stepchild, whether that's to go catch a movie they've been talking about. If y'all normally don't go out to eat, take them out to eat somewhere, take them to whatever it is that they are into. And it does not always require spending money if you are a bit strapped for cash. Yeah, I don't like date day. We're gonna go with day out. You guys are going out somewhere. Mom's not coming. If it's multiple children, try to do things with them as a whole, as well as separately, you know. Reading a book together or driving them to practice. Don't have them carpool if you know you ain't doing nothing anyway. Don't buy affection. Don't buy affection. Trying to win them over with expensive gifts or constant trips to amusement parks. Consistency, patience, and a calm presence matter infinitely more than material things. I believe in that wholeheartedly. And build memories. Build memories. Lasting ones. Lasting ones. And I don't know about y'all, but before I would ever want to get into a step parenting situation, especially if there is an active other parent, another mom, I would most definitely want to have a sit down of the sorts with that woman. Multiple, actually, because they're their mother, and I would be their stepmother. We need to make sure we're on the same page. The same way more fathers and stepfathers. And this is only if the actual father is doing their part. If you are a lackluster father now. But if you are fully doing your part, you just happen to not be with that mother, and she has a man or a partner, who is able, willing, and ready to fill that gap that has been left, regardless of whose fault it was, what the reasoning was. Conversations most definitely need to be had. You said focus. I'm mad. No, cut my wisdom. It's just the name. Hater. V, you want me to send you this the summer slam results? Yes. Yeah, Joan. I turned the thing off on my wall many moons ago to where people can just put stuff on there willy nilly. Yes, I do actually. I hope you guys were able to get something out of this. I really do. Most grown people have children, even if that's only one. Not everyone has children, but you very well may know somebody who has children who may be in a step parenting situation, whether they themselves are the step parents or in the other home there is a step parent. Everything we discuss is in regards to a good stepfather, not a lackluster piece of shit. Excuse my language. Because they do exist, because you have a lot of lackluster women who will just bring any old Tom, Dick, and Harry around their children. That's a whole separate conversation. But once you're able to identify and realize that your children have a good stepfather, yes, still remain vigilant because there are a lot of wicked people in this world who know how to put on a very good front. So one of the main ways of being vigilant and remaining vigilant is to be active, to be actively there. You can't do too much of nothing if you are on the outside looking in. You can't do too much of nothing if you are on the outside looking in. And I think a conversation I want to have in the future is parents who, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, push their child away. Now we're talking about their adult child. Push their child away simply because they don't like, respect, or appreciate their spouse. We are going to be getting into that. We're going to be getting into that very soon. Because like I said, when you are on the outside looking in, you are not privy to anything. And there's a lot of parents who allow the disdain that they have for their child's spouse or partner to allow for them to be and to wind up on the outside looking in. We are going to be touching on that soon. I used to be cool with a man who, that was his situation. His parents, primarily his mom, did not care for his wife at all, to the point where he would go home to visit and would never even bring her. Never even bring her. He limited the amount of times he would go home to visit, even really bother with his mom because he knew or he felt when he would have conversations with his mom, she would be down in his wife. And that affected their relationship. And it is a very sad thing. So we'll be talking about that dynamic soon. Yeah, that was a touchy subject. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it was. But people don't like to touch on the touchy subject. Let's talk about dumb stuff, trivial things that don't really matter in the bigger scheme of things. I like to talk about it all. I'm getting out of here. Thank y'all for coming. Yes, call a spade a spade. Even if that spade happens to be in the deck that you hold. I'm getting out of here. I appreciate y'all coming. I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all night. The night is young. Be safe if you're going to be out there whoopty doing. Bye.